Welcome to Get Over It, the Consciousness Transforming Podcast for exceptional 21st century living. Folks, we have a show on numerology today, not just numerology, but Afro-Brazilian numerology. And it's so different than what we consider numerology here in the States. We're going to be speaking with Diego de Ochosi, and that's close. It's not it, but that's close. And we're going to talk about his new book, Afro-Brazilian Numerology, Awakening Your Better Self with the Wisdom of the Orishas. There's a lot here to learn, and folks, this book goes into detail on how you can do your own chart and get your own information, and it's well worth it because it delves deep into the psyche, delves deep into the soul. Now, the information shared on Get Over It uses its intuitive and pragmatic insight to help you shift your consciousness to break through the blocks and release energy that is no longer needed. Yes, we're going to help you let go of the BS that's holding you back, but you know I always ask that question, are you truly ready to? And by the way, folks, BS is belief system. A bit about me for my new listeners: intuitive since birth. I'm a third generation intuitive with over 3 decades of experience supporting people to break through the blocks along their path. I'm a strategist for personal and professional transformation, revealing cutting-edge information that enables you to prosper and thrive. I spent 25 successful years in corporate America as an executive sales professional, and I'm the founder of Healing Visions Ministries and the Northern California Children's Education Network, a 501c3 nonprofit. I provide consultations and healings in all areas of life that heal the mind-body-spirit connection, allowing you to live your very best life. My clients tell me that I keep it real while providing them with accurate information to assist them along their journey as a spirit living a human existence. But they also say, if you really don't want to know, don't ask Monique. My background includes a doctorate in metaphysics, Reiki master teacher, ordained minister, and clinical hypnotherapist. So whether you are stressed, depressed, or possessed, I can help. To find out more about me and the services I offer, go to my website, and that's MoniqueChapman.com. And I invite you to like me on Facebook and follow me on LinkedIn. My guest today, Diego de Ochosi, is a chief Kimbanda and Orisha priest, responsible for the spiritual temple in Brazil that holds courses and rituals for Brazilians and foreigners every year. For more than 20 years, he has been researching and presenting courses, lectures, and workshops on pagan and Afro-Brazilian religions. Since 2015, he writes about African and Afro-Brazilian spirituality, becoming a best-selling author in Brazil with 3 books published in English: Traditional Brazilian Black Magic, Sacred Leaves, and Afro-Brazilian Numerology. If you want to know more about him, which I know that you will, you can check him out at his website, and I'm going to spell it for you: DIEGODEOXOSSI.com.br. Again, DIEGODEOXOSSI.com.br. Welcome, Diego.
Hi, Monique. How are you? Thank you so much for inviting me to the show. It's an honor to be with you and all our guests and hearers.
It's an honor to be with you too, and thank you so much for coming on. Your subject matter is fascinating. In fact, you are quite fascinating. You became the priest of the Kambada back in 2014. So why don't we start there and give us a little background about your history and how you got to where you are today, and then we'll delve into the book a bit.
Great. Well, I'm 37 years now, and actually my spiritual journey begins in my 2 years old, just as a recently born child. I was born with a incurable disease called, it's a kidney disease. I really don't know the English name for it, but basically it's an incurable disease until nowadays. And two options were, first of them, to pass my whole life doing dialysis and treating the disease, living with it. And on the other hand, my mother had the option for a kidney transplant, but actually neither of them happens. The thing is that in the disease start when I was 2 years old, and when I was 4 to 5 years old, my grandma took me to a sorcerer, to a priest, a Orishas priest in Brazil. That how is the word in English? He kind of devoted me to the Orishas in exchange for my life, and he said, "Well, I'm going to cure Diego. I'm going to give him to the Orishas in exchange for his life. And someday in the future, he will need to grab this mission, something like that." I was 4 to 5 years old at the time, and the doctors already had announced to my mom that I supposedly wouldn't leave after 7 years old. And the thing is that, and I remember this just like today, when I was 7 years old in one of my hospital visitings, because I was at the hospital once a week, once every couple of weeks. And I can remember this just like now, that the doctor came from the clinic, and she said to my mom, "Mom, we can stop the medicines, we can stop all the treatment, we can stop everything, because the disease just disappeared, and we can't explain why, but Diego is cured." And from that time on, kind of all my life organically was driven to spirituality. My grandma was a medium in an Umbanda temple in Brazil. My grandmother and I lost myself in English, sorry. My grandmother and my godmother, both of them, they were mediums in an Umbanda temple, and they started to take me there frequently. And I was enchanted by the songs, by the spirit's embodiment and all things like that. But I was a child, I was 8 years old. I just thought, I saw that and thought, whoa, this is enchanting, but that's it. And the thing is that a lot of years later, actually, when I was about 22 or 23 years old, I moved to a new place. And right in the corner, there was an Umbanda temple. And I have actually, of course, I had forgot about what passed in the childhood. I had forgot about all that. How is the word in English? That prophecy that the Orisha priest made in my early childhood. But the thing is that when I was 22, I met the religion again. I met the Orishas. A Orisha temple again since my childhood. And from that day on, all my life was devoted for it. So with 22 years, I get back on track. I got to know this temple. In the next year, with 2023, I became a part of the temple as a medium in development, as we call in Brazil. And with 24 years old, I was entitled a Orishas priest in Brazil. Wow. And that African matrix religions, African-based religions in Brazil, they have a lot of different traditions or different branches. And prior to the Orishas branch I was initiated into, there was a spirit branch. So I understand that one branch completes each other, you know. So I got
Mm-hmm.
initiated into a spirit cult which is called Kimbanda, where we worship and work with the souls of the deceased and the ancestor souls, you know. And just 1 year later, I got initiated and priested in Orisha's effective Orisha tradition. So the nature gods and goddesses, they get kind of complete the dead souls worshiping. So basically, I'm a priest in two different traditions, but they complete each other. Kimbanda is a tradition devoted to the souls of the deceased, the souls of the ancestors. And in a raw way of saying this, Kimbanda is devoted to worshiping the dead. On the other
Mm-hmm.
hand, the Orisha tradition, Candomblé, as we call in Brazil, which is basically the same of Santeria and Voodoo and Haitian Voodoo. In Candomblé, we worship the nature gods and goddesses. So from my 24 to 25 years old, I literally from one day to another, I closed the business I had at the time. I ran a media business at the time. I ended all my clients. I delivered all the projects. And I, of course, summoned by the Orishas and the spirits and by their orientation, I started my own temple in Brazil. So I passed for the whole, all the 3 degrees of initiation and the priesthood rituals and everything like that. And
Uh-huh.
then I started to run the temple in Brazil. And then literally all my life became devoted to spread the word and to welcome and embrace people that are looking to become better versions of their selves throughout the Orishas and the spirits councils.
Well,
Then,
you,
with that, I met my spiritual mother, my spiritual initiator,
uh-huh.
and when I met her, she was she was completing 49 years of initiation, and all my writing career, as we can call it, if we can call it like that, all my writing career starts by a simple wish to record and to register her story. You know, she was born a poor Black woman with low education, and she became one of the highest icons of African religions in Brazil. But she never had someone to tell her story, to write down her story, and to
Uh-huh.
write down how she, among with the spirit that embodies her, which is called Eshu King, she, aside of her spirit, she became the founder of a spiritual tradition in Brazil that nowadays have followers in all Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Spain, a few followers in the US. So she became an icon of resistance, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And but her story has never been told up to 2005. And all my writing story starts with me simply trying to register that story. And the thing is that it happened so fast and so amazingly that that first simple book became one of the major publishing companies in Brazil that publishes Afro-American spirituality. Took my name as a writer outside Brazil, so we have traditional Brazilian black magic book, which is my first book in the US and all over the world, translated to English. Then we got Sacred Leaves and all other works I've started to write about on Afro-Brazilian spirituality. They have been published in English. So I'm very honored to be associated with her, you know, to be one
Mm-hmm.
of her initiates, to be one of her priests, because what I do here in my temple and what I write about in my books is just what she told me and she taught me. And that's one way that we have a saying in Brazil that Eshu, which is the god of communication and the god of movement, this saying says that Eshu makes the right turn wrong and the wrong turn right. So he's the god of what's the word? He's the god of tricky. He's kind of a trickster, you know.
Uh-huh. You think
And
you okay.
and that's what he made of my life. You know,
Okay.
he took a not a wrong life, but a detoured life and put it
Mhm.
on the Orisha's track. And that what brought me here today. As I have 14 years of initiated, 10 years of my running my own temple with initiated by myself in Brazil and the US. And well, I, I I owe all my life to the Orishas and the spirits, and that's what I try to put a little bit in the books. You know, not only to teach how to do, and not only to teach what is African religions or African practices, spiritual practices, but my own experience, how the Orishas and the spirituality really transformed my life. That's what took me here.
Well, you had a great journey. Now let me ask you, what was the name of your spiritual godmother?
Her name is Ieda. Her civil name is Ieda Maria Viana da Silva, and her spiritual name is Ieda de Ogum.
Okay, thank you. Now, back in 2022, you were bestowed another great honor. Tell us about that, and then we'll jump into the Odus
2022.
with the
Sorry,
bull's knife.
sorry.
The
Oh
bull's
yeah,
knife.
the bull's knife. Yeah,
You-
I was thinking about literary award, something like this. I was trying to get in my memory. Yeah, because in Kimbanda we have three main degrees of initiation, and once you reach the third degree, which is the priesthood, from that on you can still get five symbolic degrees that represents spiritual rites and spiritual knowledge that you can perform in a temple. And the most honorable of these degrees is the bull's knife, where we get the spiritual authorization. I guess that's the best word to perform cattle and bull sacrifices to offer the spirits, and that represents the highest degree one can reach in Kimbanda. And only a few priestesses in Brazil have this degree. I guess I don't have this exact number here, but I can say that maybe 50 or 70 priests all over Brazil have this degree. And in 13 years after my initiation, I was honored by this degree, you know, Manheda, which is the kind name we gave her. She's still alive, and with 82 years old, she passed this degree to me. So this was my, I guess that the highest honor I can feel
Mhm.
and receive in my spiritual life, you know, because it's my elder saying you are absolutely ready to do anything and everything in our spiritual path. Because
Mhm.
of course, the spirituality is a lifelong learning practice. We never know everything there is to know,
Right.
but when you have someone that's 82 years old and 62 years of initiated, being that icon she is all over the world, saying, you know, all that I have to teach you. Now you just need to take your own steps and make it flourish, make it bigger, take the Kimbanda's name throughout the world, just like she did. And basically that was her speech when giving me the bull's knife. That's a
Mhm.
major honor someone can have, you know.
Yes, it is. Okay, let's switch gears for a moment and talk about the book a bit. And you utilize the Odus. Is it Odus or Odus? And
Odus, yeah, yeah.
you're saying there's 16 main Odus. So tell us about them and how they help us. And then you can, throw in the Orishas, just kind of take it from there.
Great. So if looking for an African / Afro-Brazilian point of view, a spiritual point of view, we understand that there are basically 16 destiny roads that we can walk through during life. And these 16 main roads, they have two kinds of influence over us. The first of them is throughout a fortune telling session, a reading, a oracle reading, where we understand which of these 16 main energies, and there are 256 other parallel energies. When they mingle, the 16 mingles with each other, so they can create 256 different energies. But we understand that through a oracle reading, we can have a glance and understand how these energies are influencing our life from the external world to us, so outside in. And these outside in influences, they change every day because we live in a world of energies. And this is the role that the Orisha's oracle plays in our life, to take kind of a photograph of your nowadays life, what's happening to you in a good or a bad sense, and how these outside energies, how they are influencing your life, and how you can either empower the good energies or to neutralize the bad energies that are influencing you now. But it makes not much sense to look only to the outside without understanding how your inner energies relate with the outside world. And that's what Afro-Brazilian numerology is all about. To understand in these 16 main destiny roads, these 16 main odus, how they define your personality, how they influence the way you put yourself to the road in all life areas. So basically, we will have two sets of energies, one influencing you from the outside in, and that changes basically every day. Basically, all kind of energy we relate in the world changes this relationship and these influences. But the other set of energies is how we put ourselves through the world. And that never changes. What changes is the context. But just like a birth chart, a traditional birth chart, we will always have the same horoscope sign throughout life, So just like that, we will always have the same birth odu throughout life. The difference is how this energy from inside out contextualize with the life we're living now. And that's the whole idea of Afro-Brazilian numerology book. The first half of the book, of course, we need to explain what is odu, how it works in our life, how to create a birth chart, how to assess and interpret these odu's meanings. But that's just the how-to part, and that's how the first half of the book. And that's basically a course, a lecture on the technique. But what do we do with the technique is the secret for a successful life. What do we do and how we deal with these energies, how we actually look inside and face the worst part of these energies and try to neutralize and learn with them to become someone better. That's the secret of success and happiness. And that's what the second half of the book is all about. Because I can give you a tool in your hands, I can teach you how to use this tool, but if I don't really take you in a journey that says, look, I've been there, I was worse than I am now, and that's what worked for me in a real life way, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. Maybe you can look at this road, maybe you can step where I stepped before, and look where I got. That's the second half of the book, kind of a inner journey to really look to the best energies that influence our birth, the best part of the Orisha's birth chart. So we always want to hear something good from oracles and any kind of readings. So we have a lot of good energies, that positive energies that rules our birth chart, and that makes we be just the way we are. But there's something else, and that something else is have the courage uh, and the strength
Mm-hmm.
to look at our own shadow, to face our shadow, and
Mm-hmm.
to understand how that shadow can be overcome and transformed. And if she can't be neutralized, or if she can't be, uh, I don't know the word in English, but if we can't transform that shadow in a positive energy, because it's the dark side of our birth ruling. We
Mm-hmm.
cannot change our birth, so that energy will always influences us in a negative way. But how can we look for that energy influence and take that shadow as a fuel to empower us? Oh, I
Okay.
know that I speak too much. I guess that here I'm ruled by
You're
Sun, which is
fine.
the idea of communication, and I guess that the show is a proof of that. I speak too much, and
Oh,
it
no, you spoken very eloquently and given a lot of information. I appreciate it. I want to ask you a question about the shadow. So, is the shadow side of us that we have, and everybody has one, and will always have one, is that here to help us understand how to better maneuver in this world and adjust ourselves for growth?
exactly, that's the key point. That's the key point. And I even have a chapter in the book that's called Transforming Others Through Self-Transformation,
Mhm.
where I teach how people we can never change someone, or at least we should never expect to change the others around us. But once we understand their personality, their ruling odus, and our ruling odus, we can adapt the way we interact with them in order to have the response we wish to get.
Mhm.
So if just I use myself as an example. If I talk aloud and I talk too quickly, but if I'm trying to get someone who's ruled by the Odu of Fun, which is the Odu of patience, the Odu of lethargy, if I'm trying to communicate with someone ruled by this Odu, and I want the person to hear me, to
Mhm.
agree with me, I can't speak just as quick as I'm speaking here. I
Mhm.
need to adapt myself to the reality around. And looking to our shadow, we can understand how we wouldn't be able to do that, because that's what our shadow is going to say. Look, Diego, this is how you would uh, perform at your worst. So maybe if you take a step down, maybe if you take a step back and adapt yourself through the road, you can maneuver all things around, because you are pressing the right buttons. If you just act by instinct, you probably will press the wrong buttons. And if you want to
Mhm.
press the right ones in you and in the people around, you need to press the right buttons. So looking at your shadow will make you, if not solve it, you can at least manipulate it. And the way
Mhm.
you put to the world, and this is basically, I guess, the secret rule, the law of attraction rule. You only get what you give.
Mhm.
So once you take conscious of yourself and consciously choose what you give, then you can define what you get in return. And in a personality level, you can start molding. I don't know if that's a word in English. You
Yeah, it
can
is.
start molding the people around, or the answers you get from people around, and the reactions you get from people around, by setting the way you put to the world. And that's what the shadow work is all about.
Okay. Well, sometimes based on what you're saying, it seems like the shadow work is sometimes more important than the other work because we don't progress unless we truly understand the shadow, our shadow.
Yeah,
Is that what you're
exactly.
saying?
That's exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's switch gears for a moment and talk about the orishas.
Eureka's my life, my path,
Your
my
love.
everything, my love, my everything. Yeah. Well, the
Talk to us about
Orishas,
them.
in a simple explanation, the Orishas are the African gods and goddesses that had their original cult or religion in ancient Africa, and that got all over Americas throughout the slavery process. Basically, they are the nature forces that the enslaved Africans brought to Brazil and all Americas in such a strong way, because that was the only thing they had from their
Mhm.
ancient land, and they transformed that tradition, that ancient traditional practice. They adapt this to what each country in America had to give. So we have Orisha's cult in Brazil, which is called Candomblé. We have Orisha's cult in Cuba, which is called Santeria. We had Orisha's cult in Haiti, which is called the Voodoo, the Haitian Voodoo. We had a lot of other names and expressions and regional expressions of the Orisha's cult. But basically, we are talking about nature forces. So not only forces, but nature powers. I don't know if I'm choosing the right word,
You
but
are.
the thing is that we understand that communication is a god, you know, and
Mhm.
this god of communication, the god of speech, is called Eshu, or in Cuba it's called Elegua,
Mhm.
and we have. So that the sense of strategy, the sense of war, the sense of earning your life is a god, is a nature power, and this is deified as the god of war, which is called Ogun. The wealth, the prosperity, the pleasure of life, we understand this is a nature power. It's natural to human beings to look for pleasure and to look for happiness, and this is a deity, and we
Mhm.
understand this as a deity, and we call it Ochosi. Uh, Pregnancy and birthhood is also a nature force, because giving life, creating new lives from the one we leave, giving birth. I really don't know the right word for fecundity. Is that a right word?
Um,
Well, giving birth to a child. That's the whole point. So
that helps fix that.
all this nature, for all these powers, all these human powers, we understand these are aspects of the deities, just like the nature forces itself, like the thunder, like the rain, like the rivers, like the woods. So orishas are all that of course we give them a name and a humanoid form that that makes us closer to them. It makes it easier to worship a figure than a energy cloud, So all these orishas, they have a humanoid form that makes us closer to them, or better saying, makes them closer to us,
Mhm.
because the whole magic of these codes, of these traditions, is the spiritual embodiment.
Okay.
And because when we get initiated, literally a seed that represents these gods, it's rooted inside our body. And once it is rooted inside our body, it's our mission in life to make that seed flourish. Is that the right word?
Mhm.
Make
Yeah,
it
to
grow and
flourish, to
flourish.
grow. Yes.
Yeah, and it's our spiritual and personal commitment with the Orisha who was planted inside of us to make that seed nourish and flourish. And that's why I'll do a raw translation here, but we have this saying that we initiate ourselves to the Orishas to become an Orisha. Because the
Mm.
idea is that that seed grows and flourish until we embody and personalize that Orisha's best capabilities, best archetype.
Aspects, qualities,
Best,
aspects. Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly. So that in this sense, we initiate to become Orishas. We're not trying to become gods, nothing's like that. We are trying to get as closer as we can to that power that brings us joy, happiness, wealth, health, and and
Mm-hmm.
that's the main point. And this is a strong contrast with Christian traditions, with Christian religions, because basically, and of course I'm generalizing here, but basically, Christian tradition says that we need to suffer in this life in order to have a heaven's place.
Yeah.
In order to save our soul, we need to suffer while living. And African ethos, African traditions, African ethics, and African spirituality says otherwise. We
Mm-hmm.
are living now, and we are entitled to look for happiness, to look for prosperity, to look for pleasure while we're living.
We're here.
We're here, we're now, and we are entitled to be happy. That's the
Yes.
thing. I used to talk about prosperity. I used to talk a lot about prosperity, about wealth, but the thing is that prosperity is not always money, because you it makes no point to have a fortune in the bank and spend it all in a hospital.
Exactly.
When I talk
Yeah.
about prosperity, when I talk about the goal of having the orishas in our life is to be able to live what really makes you happy. And that's something so intimate, because what makes me happy probably is not the same thing that makes you happy, but you are entitled to look for what makes you happy at the most and to live it and to have pleasure with that.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to save your soul for the next life, because we don't we don't look to reincarnation in this saving or evolving soul that needs to have suffer to expurge its sins. We
Mm-hmm.
understand the reincarnation as the continuation of life, as the continuation
Exactly.
of our ancestry. So I will reincarnate anyway. I,
Exactly.
I
And I
sorry.
truly feel there's no sin per se, experiences, lessons if we choose to learn them. But Christians have really did a number on us, a mind change with us, with what they want us to believe in. I think people are waking up today to the more spiritual
Mm-hmm.
aspects of life, but they've been programmed for so many centuries, millennia, that they just have to be
Mm-hmm.
a certain way, and they don't. I mean, it's time to wake up because the time is now. We've been put on earth to come to the forefront now. Our time is almost up, but before we go, I want to ask you about the cowrie shells and what they are, how you utilize them in a reading, because I've always found that very fascinating.
The cowrie shells are the traditional Orishas oracle. So if someone wants to have to have the Orishas Council, to get in contact with the Orishas and to understand the outside energies that are influencing one's life now, this is the goal of the cowrie shells divination, of the cowrie shells oracle. So that's
Mhm.
the only true and traditional way to understand and get to know who is your spiritual father and mother, as we call in Brazil. So who is your ruling Orisha, the one you would be initiated uh, if you wanted to,
Mhm.
how to see, how to understand which outside energies are influencing you now. But basically, any oracle can do that. Any oracle can say what outside energies are influencing now and what's going to happen in the near future. And the main difference and the biggest difference is that the cowrie shells oracle, the cowrie shells divination, not only identifies and says, well, this is what's happening to you now, but it gives us two kind of advices. The first kind is when something is not spiritual, doesn't have a spiritual background. So the cowrie shells throughout the Orisha's advices will say, look, Diego, this is happening to you now because you're acting this, and that way. So if you
Mhm.
want to change this situation, you need to change this or that behave in your life. That's the
Mhm.
first thing. So a behavioral advice. And on the other hand, or from all oracles I know, the cowrie shells is the only tool, the only oracle that says, look, this is happening to you now. This is practical life, but this is a spiritual rooted. This is a spiritual issue.
Mhm.
And the ritual you need to do is that in order to neutralize or to potentialize a good or a bad energy. So not only the oracles, the Karishel oracles, it gives us a fortune telling, it gives us an advice, it gives us an indication of what's happening, but it also gives us the solution for it in a emotional and a spiritual way. But I understand that this is a not very common oracle to find outside Brazil. I
Mhm.
tend to say that it's very rare to find someone who truly uh, do oracle readings outside Brazil. And I guess this is a surprise even for you, but that's what we tried to do along with Rockpool Publishing. We just released the African Gods Oracle deck with card decks that can not serve, they will not serve as a traditional oracle. That's not the
Mhm.
idea. But if you can't find someone who is a honest and truly Orisha's priest using the African Gods Oracle, people can have at least a daily advice from the Orishas. So there are 36 cards where you can pick one, and then you have that Orisha who's blessing your day, who's giving you an advice, or if if depending on the card that you pull up on the deck, you can have some homemade rituals to get in touch with that Orisha force.
Mhm. Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that. Now, before I let you go, when we go to your website, diegodeogc.br, what are we going to find? Let me spell that for folks again. That's DIEGODEOXSSI.com.br. What are we going to find when we go there?
Well, you're gonna find a lot of free articles on spirituality, on better knowing yourself, on the Orisha's tradition, on Kimbanda, which is the dads and spirits tradition. There are a lot of articles in the blog, but people can also schedule their reading with me throughout the Kimbanda oracle or the Orisha's Cowrie Shell divination. We have a few rituals that people can buy that for doing at home, and most of all, they will get uh, honest information, not only of what is the African matrix traditions, what is Kimbanda, and what is the Orisha's tradition, but most of
Mhm.
all, real life cases, real life uh, reflections, real life
like stories that you know.
Stories, yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Real life stories on how to use this, how to get all the technique, how to get all the how to, and
Mhm.
how to put this in real life. Because I no, not me. The orishas and the spirits
Mhm.
transformed my life, and I assumed this mission of spreading this word, and showing people that they can reach their best self. They can, as you said, it's time to wake up, and they can also awake their better self with the wisdom of the orishas. That's what
Okay.
they will find in the site, the website.
Okay. Well, thank you for being with us today. I know my audience is greatly going to appreciate it, and so do I. I'm truly honored to have your time and attention, Diego. And folks, please remember that the most important choice that you can make is what you choose to make important. Consider making the masterful choice of discovering Afro-Brazilian numerology. Abundant blessings, light, and love to all. Agape.